Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to the Paul Wharton Show on SiriusXM Channel 141. I'm Paul Wharton, and we're coming to you from the full-service radio studio at the Line Hotel in Washington, D.C., where I have the honor of being joined by the multi-talented singer, actress, author, fashion designer, and all-around woman that handles her business and has the right stuff. Please welcome my friend, Miss Vanessa Williams.
Hello, Paul Wharton.
Hello.
Sounds so fabulous.
Williams and Wharton.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we got to do something with that.
Sounds like a show to me.
We got to do something with that. By the way, can I just tell you, you look absolutely marvelous.
Well, thank you. I just got a hydrofacial.
It's
all about maintenance. At my age, it's all about maintaining the glow as long as you possibly can.
It really is. Mm-hmm. And part of it is the outside, but what keeps that glow going from the inside out for you?
You know, I've been just blessed to do what I like, to have options to do things that I like. I've built my career doing things that I like. You know, I was a musical theater major in college at Syracuse, majoring with singing and dancing and acting and music and playing piano, and I could get a chance to do it all for a living. You know, I get a chance to do concerts. I sing my own music because I have records that I've done since 1988, which has been extraordinary. I do Broadway, where I get a chance to sing and dance and act and play a character. I get a chance to do television and film and also design. You know? So and write books. I mean, it's just amazing that at 56 years old, I can look back at a career that I have built, but I'm also extremely grateful for all the opportunities that I've been given, but also the ones that I've taken.
Yes.
You have to take risks in life.
Absolutely.
You don't know all the outcomes all the time, and you never know where life will take you. And for instance, in my life, I was a junior at Syracuse University, majoring in musical theater, like I said. And I was freshman year. You're not allowed to do anything. It's just your core year, so you have to study. Sophomore year, you're allowed to audition for shows. I was in everything. As soon as I was able, I was in the first musical that fall. Then I did something off campus. Then I did another musical come springtime. And the local passion people kind of scout talent up on the hill at Krause College, which is the head of the Visual and Performing Arts Department. And I had been asked numerous times, you know, would you do Miss Syracuse? I said, no. I'm from New York. B, no, I'm not interested. I'm not a pageant girl. And I was supposed to do my first equity production, playing a small role in Cyrano de Bergerac, but it was the Orange Girl, which was nothing, but it was going to get me equity points to be a professional on Broadway. And it was supposed to happen in April. The show fell through at Syracuse Stage. I had April free. I called my mom and said, do you think I should do this pageant thing? She said, can you get some scholarship money out of it? Because I had gotten scholarships the previous 2 years. I said, yeah. She said, well, go for it. Get that money.
I love it.
And ended up changing my life at 20 years old. I was supposed to go to London on my junior year abroad. But April, I won Miss Syracuse. July, I won Miss New York. And then September, I won Miss America. So you never know when life will give you a detour, because that was not what my path was that I thought would be happening. I thought I'd graduate from college, go to Yale School of Drama for my master's in acting, and then go to New York and do my thing. But
now, you were the first African-American woman to ever win Miss America.
Which is crazy, because you look back now and you see so many examples of Black beauty in everything. Yes. And growing up, we did not have that. So people need to know, these youngins, that you know, I had one black doll. It was a Sasha doll. I named my daughter Sasha because that was my favorite doll back in the day. It was made in Sweden, but that was the one black doll that had brown skin. You were lucky if you saw advertisements with any kind of representation. And then as the older we got, we would have Fashion Fair and Ultra Sheen, and those were, you'd see those ads when you had Soul Train on Saturdays, where you'd see a whole bunch of black folks. So Julia was Diane Carroll, who is a phenomenal actress and singer. She was the first black woman to play a leading role in a half-hour comedy called Julia. She was a working nurse. She had a son named Corey. that was tuning in television for us, because that was a representation of what we needed to see as African Americans, and that we're talking about back in the 70s.
Let me ask you something. Was there a part of you that didn't feel the pressure so much to compete because you thought in some way that your color was going to hold you back from winning Miss America? Because didn't it seem kind of like something that, did you really?
No, I think on the opposite. I knew that I had the talent and the intellect to be to win Miss America, because I knew instinctively as a New Yorker, I was well educated. My parents.
I knew you had it, but do you think that America was ready at that time?
I think America was ready?
Yeah.
America's never ready for change.
Okay.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime there's any change in any of any kind of sequence or something that's been a long tradition, people are gonna have some issues, and the person who's the trailblazer always gets the most heat.
So we know what happened then. Pictures that you took, a while before you were a teenager, and they, were coming out through Penthouse, and all of that happened. They pressured you to resign.
Right.
What did that apology mean to you 16 years later?
16, that was like...
wasn't it? Oh, wait. How many years later was it?
It's probably maybe 30 years later.
30 years later. Yes. What? 30 years later. We're talking about 16. Well, see, you look so young. All these hydrofacials got me confused.
You know what?
Because I watched that night. And you were a mood.
Well,
yeah.
I was... what... So when I was asked to come back, at first I said no, and my mother said, "Are you kidding? After all we've done, after all they had done to our family and myself, but I used it as an opportunity to show from 1983 to, was it 2000? I think it was maybe 2016
16,
or so?
That's what it was. That's where the 16 came from.
Yeah. So basically, I wanted to show, yes, I was in college when all this craziness happened, but look where I am. And I got a chance to sing my music from my album with my band on stage with me, and be an example of what I made of myself with the help of armies of people and supporters and opportunity in my life. And my mom, I think it was probably more important for her than anything, just because she had seen it. She had protected me. My parents, had been kind of, besides me, but run through the mud, and did it with such a sense of valor and commitment and integrity. It was a different system, obviously, back then.
Sure.
And Sam Haskell, who was the head of it, I knew and trusted him also. So that was kind of an added sense of security. But it's life's got a lot of different surprises for you.
Well, with moms, it's hard for them to move on from things like that.
Yes.
When you wronged their baby. So was that good for your mom? Did she feel like, okay, they did what they're supposed to do, and
yes, I think my mom felt a sense of vindication, but also the fact that, I won fair and square, and I worked my behind off while I was Miss America. I did twice the amount of appearances that a normal Miss America would do, because there was a whole new audience.
Yes.
So I worked really hard, but also I think that she just, she's from that era where it's hard for women of that era to forgive and forget. I mean, she lived through the civil rights era. While I was a baby, Martin Luther King was assassinated, JFK was assassinated. They'd lived through that hardship, bringing new children into the world.
Yeah.
So you got to think, oh my God, what is the world going to be like when I'm bringing these me and my brother in the middle of the 60s and all that chaos. So I think that was part of her being tough and seeing things in a very skewed way as a black woman.
So obviously that toughness, you inherited that from her. There was no crash and burn for you. I'm sure there were probably some hard times just after. But
oh yeah, it was tremendously tough. But I never felt like my talent was being taken away. I knew that was once the dust settled, people get a chance to see who I am.
Absolutely.
So, give me some time. And and that's exactly what has happened. Everything I've done, oh, I didn't know she could do that. Broadway, oh, I didn't know she could do that. Recording, oh, I didn't know she could do that. I mean, so it was easier for me to have under expectations and to rise the occasion than to be, lauded as a star, and then all you have to do is fall down.
So 1988, picture it.
Yeah.
Laurel, Maryland, a young boy calls his family to the living room, seats them all up in the front row, tells his sister to hit it. The music starts. He dims the chandelier. You know what I'm going to go through, right?
What?
I was obsessed with Dreamin'. This is such a full circle moment for me, but I've had so many of these full circle moments. I just thank God. God, thank you so much for choosing me in this way. But I had a concert with my mom and my dad. Okay. I was 10 years old, and I sang, "For the life of me, I never thought that it could be the way it sounds right."
That's hilarious.
So funny because as an adult, it's 41 years old. I'm thinking back on that moment. That really did happen. It's not just me making it up. It happened. My dad had to see my full choreography and everything. I'm sure that was a whole moment for him. But I remember that song making me wonder what love was.
Okay.
It gave me a little tingle because I sang it a lot.
Yeah.
And I performed to it. What did it make you feel?
Well, it felt like a hit because
it felt like a hit.
Yeah.
It felt rich.
It felt rich. And that was the off my first album, The Right Stuff, which came out in '88. But that was the ballad that we were kind of saving for our third single, and that was going to be the one to establish myself as a recording career. I knew when The Right Stuff came out, people go, "Oh, one hit wonder. Oh, it's climbing the charts. Well, we'll see. We'll see what she can do. We'll see." And then when Dreaming came out, it's like, yes, I'm here to stay. This is my voice. There's no tricks and mirrors. This is who I am. And that kind of legitimized my recording artistry.
Yeah.
And then when Comfort Zone came out, it's like, okay, I'm here to stay.
You're here to stay.
I'm here to play.
Yes.
And here's Save the Best for Last.
So Save the Best for Last. I love it.
6 weeks at number one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the albums, of course, you're multi-talented. I saw you at a Broadway show when Romeo and Juliet, when it came back with
Condola.
With Condola.
Yeah.
I actually saw your Chanel
night?
bag. I was sitting just a few seats over from you. I said, I caught the bag, and then I said, "Oh my God, that bag is beautiful." And I said, "Oh my God, that bag belongs to Vanessa Williams."
I went to see Condola because we had just finished doing Trip to Bountiful with Cicely Tyson and Cuba Gooding Jr. on Broadway, and she left that show because we were such a big hit that they extended us, but she already made a commitment to do Romeo and Juliet.
With Orlando Bloom, right?
Yes. So that. So we went to see her after we finished our run.
So anyone that knows you or follows you on social media, on Instagram, Vanessa Williams Official, right? Sees that you are seriously a fan of Broadway.
Oh, yeah.
You go to more shows than anybody I know.
Well, that was the dream. I mean, I grew up outside of New York. I would always go to the theater with my mom. So I saw Stephanie Mills in The Wiz, when she was probably 16 and I was, 13 and saying, wow, I want to do that.
Yeah. Shout out to George Faison. Do you know George?
Yes.
My friend George.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I had moments. I saw Gregory Hines and Maurice Hines and Hubie. So, I saw these phenomenal hit and battle and Sophisticated Ladies with Phyllis Hyman with that beautiful smoky voice. I mean, these were legends. Patti LaBelle, I've seen her a bunch of times, but that was a tangible goal for me. All I had to do is take the train in from Westchester, audition, and that was a possibility. That Broadway was a possibility. That's why I majored in musical theater.
Yeah.
I was doing all these shows in high school and summer theater. And, when it came time, like, picking a college, and I said, well, are there any colleges that you can major in musical theater? And they go, yeah, here are the list. I go, okay. And I applied to all of them and got in all of them and ended up at Syracuse. But, I was so surprised that I could I could follow my skill set and make a living. That's what I say to most people. Like, what's your advice? What are you good at?
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's start there.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter is at Chapman University at the Dodge School of Film for film production. She's been making films on her laptop since she was like, she'd have a play date when she was in 3rd, 4th grade, set it up. You go here, you do a cartwheel here, okay, come back, edit it, sync the music, do the special effects, and then at the end of her play date, instead of like, we were on the swings all day, she'd be like, Mom, look what I did.
I made a film.
Every day, all the time. And so when it was time for her, like, what do you want to do? I don't know what I should do. I go, Sasha, you're a natural filmmaker. Start there, and then we'll see where you go. You might be a cinematographer. You might be a director. Who knows? But let's just start with what you're good at. So I say follow your skill set.
And get really good at it. I like what you said in a previous interview, something I saw, where you said, I have the education where I can go in. If I'm singing a new song, I can read the music.
Yeah.
So it's not just something that you're just doing. You actually trained and you studied. So there's a part of it, I think, in entertainment because of Instagram and all these other, social media platforms. It makes young people feel like you just are. You step in, you start singing, and you just are.
Right.
But there is an education to
and
that.
Also, a lot of people say, how do you keep your voices so clear? How do you maintain it? I was trained. I know how to warm up properly. I know how to sing properly. I know how to take care of my instrument, and that's what you have to do. So that's what you get by training, by having an education in whatever you're doing. And if you don't and you want to, there are plenty of programs that afford you the education. And if not, do your research. Find out, boy, Pharrell is really an amazing musician. How did he start? Before he was a producer, he played in the marching band. What instrument did he play? Who was his band instructor? When did he start playing? So you know that you can see where someone has started from an education and built an empire.
Absolutely. I recently saw you perform with the National Symphony Orchestra at the Kennedy Center here in D.C. And I'll tell you, there were Black people, white people, old people, young people. I'm going to have to holler at the Kennedy Center because you can't sit all the real old people right up front.
They did.
I'm like, you need to leave that for some of the fans, of a certain age, but the old folks are right up front. But the interesting thing as I was watching you perform, and by the way, watching you perform with that symphony orchestra was just
what a treat.
Amazing. But I'm wondering, because you do so many things, you do Broadway, you sing, you act, I saw the joy that it brought the people in the audience, and it was a packed house. What do you enjoy the most? Watching people that are familiar with the work that you're singing, because so many were, or watching people see you for the first time, maybe in a Broadway show or in a specific part that's their first time seeing you?
It's both. I love surprising people, and in my shows that I do, depending on if it's a 90-minute show or a 70 or a 55, I try to do a little bit of something for our R&B audience, the Broadway audience, the pop audience, the young teen that's danced to Colors of the Wind from Pocahontas when they were, in dance class, like, oh my God, she's singing it live.
Yes.
Or the people that remember Showboat back in the 50s and 60s, and I sing, Bill as Julie from Showboat, or the people that rock out when they hear, Work to Do, and remember my version, remember the Isleys. So I try to kind of reach, and I also look out in the audience. I peek out and say, okay, who do we have here? Okay, now like we're not doing this, we're going to do that. So I can tweak.
So you switch it up.
I do switch it up. Yeah.
At this stage in your career, I was wondering that also because a lot of the songs we recognize at this stage, you've picked the ones that you probably just really love, your favorites, right?
Right, and also people that, the ones that people require.
Okay.
I'll say, I'm going to cut that. You can't cut that.
But don't you love all of those, though?
Yes.
Yeah. So because you seem like you really are, because sometimes it seems like you go to concerts and, it seems like they're just going through the motion.
Yeah.
How much closer to the paycheck? How much closer to the paycheck? With you, I got to tell you, you seem like you really are enjoying
Well,
yourself.
I adore my band that's been with me since '97 when our first tour together was with Luther Vandross back in the day.
Oh my God!
And we did an arena tour, and it was amazing. So we've been together
How was Luther?
I miss him so much.
Yeah.
What a wonderful human being, so talented, but such a good soul.
Yeah.
So I miss him. But yeah, my band has been together for over 20 years. So it's. and I can call out anything, and they can do it in 8 beats, and we're on. So that's the luxury of having people that are crazy talented as well. I mean, everyone on the stage with me all has their own bands, their own records, or all producers, writers. So I've got a real depth of knowledge behind me, that back me up. So that's my safety blanket too, and I know I can count on them.
I love it. I love watching now what's going on with your kids. Jillian, for one, LionBabe, you all might know her daughter, Jillian. The band is LionBabe, or she's LionBabe?
The band is LionBabe.
Okay.
Yes. But also that's her handle, LionBabe.
Yes.
And then Lucas produces with her, and he's Astro Raw. But together they're a LionBabe. Yes.
So she's learning all of these things from you. So what's it like? I saw you at the concert, at her concert recently. What's it like going to see your daughter in concert?
It's so gratifying. My kids grew up on the road with me, whether it's a tour bus, whether it's on stage, in my dressing room on Broadway, whether it's on a movie set in my trailer or hanging out by the director's seats. They have seen every aspect of my career. And they know that it's hard work. They know that they've got to be professional, show up on time, and know their stuff.
Absolutely.
So I've set the example for them. And when she took the leap, she actually just confessed to me that she didn't tell me that she didn't want me to know that she was actually dabbling in music before she started doing it. She graduated, she was a dancer, an amazing dancer, and she graduated from New School with a concentration in dance, and she was going to dance with a dance company. On her way to rehearsal, she slipped on one of the greats in New York, broke her wrist, and couldn't dance, and was devastated. Couldn't dance in that one particular show. Devastated. While she was recovering, she started making music with Lucas. And she didn't tell me that they had actually finished a whole bunch of stuff until they released one of the songs, Treat Me Like Fire, which was her first kind of hit that got her in the scene. And then from that, she got signed to Polydor UK, and she got a record deal out of that. But when she graduated from a New School, I had a gig in Japan. I go to Japan like every other year. And she's like, oh, I want to go. I said, well, if you want to go, you got to learn all this music on the plane, and then you can sing with me. But that's how you're going to go. She learned all the music, and she sang with me in that gig. And I think we had like a week in Tokyo and maybe 6 shows in Osaka. And I remember at sound check looking over at her behind a mic and getting ready to sing Sweetest Days, which is written for my children about how sweet the days are, and looking at her, and she's singing along to a song that was made for her and the other kids, and that was like, okay, that's a real full circle moment. And I got a little choked up, but it's so gratifying. But you see, when you're a parent, you see glimpses of what their future are going to be as soon as they are toddlers.
Absolutely.
This is the one, the shy retiring one. This is the one who's the firecracker. My son was always, and not only into Power Rangers, but had to be monochromatic, like blue sneakers, blue shoes, blue turtleneck. Everything, everything had to be monochromatic. Always had the best sneakers. Then, as he grew older, he would start collecting them and buying them. Then he would go into the Javits Center in New York City, the convention center, and do these sneaker conventions and trade. That he'd be at the opening of all these sneaker stores. So he's a real sneakerhead. But I could see that as a kid. And now he's working out in California, and he's part of the whole. Is working at a famous boutique store, but he's head of curating sneakers, which he loves. And he's happy, and he's in an environment that he loves. Sasha, I told you, is in making movies, and my oldest is into Pilates. She was in the fashion. She went to FIT, into fashion industry for a good 10 years, and just kind of got burned out. But always had a dance background, and remembered me doing Pilates after I had her. So she grew up seeing a reformer in my gym, seeing me go to class, and that was something very comfortable to her. And now she's like, they call her the Velvet Whip, because she seems all like sweet, and then you take a class and she puts it on you.
That's wonderful. I mentioned to you earlier, I took note of how magnanimous you were on Father's Day. So interesting to me on your social media how you posted an image of your first husband and with your kids, and of
My
your
second
Rick
husband.
Fox, your second husband. I'm like, wait, 2, 3, carry the one. Hold on. No, Rick Fox.
Yeah.
And I thought that in the messages were just really sweet. And so that's a great example you're setting for your kids. How did you get there?
I never wanted my kids to freak out like, oh my God, mom and dad are in the same room. What's going to happen? Because I'd seen that in other divorced couples, and I never wanted that. But also, I'm friendly with my exes,
Yeah.
and I appreciate the gift that they gave me. I have 4 great, beautiful, talented, smart kids, and it takes 2 to make a child, and I'm always grateful.
Well, I can tell that. I can tell that. It was interesting. Years ago, I was in a restaurant in Beverly Hills, and you were there with Rick Fox, and at a big, long table. And I thought, oh my God, they're such a beautiful couple. They must be so happy. And I'm sure that there were times that you were.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And Rick is the one that dissolved the marriage, and he was in a place of transition when he kind of left basketball and left the marriage. So he definitely was in a different mind space, but he's still a great guy.
God bless him. God bless him.
Yeah.
One other great example I think that you set for your kids and also for other young creatives, it was so interesting to me when your plane was late, when you were coming to the Kennedy Center and you just jumped in your car and you drove yourself.
Yeah.
I think that people envision someone like you, not to necessarily be a diva, but because you are
Have an
Vanessa
entourage.
Williams. Yes.
And,
God, I can't. I will never do that. I mean, you make it happen no matter what. And I even asked you, I said, oh, would you makeup artist? No, I'm doing my own makeup. Look, I'm a showgirl. I'm on the road. So you make it happen. Talk a little bit about those choices you make just to that drive.
You mentioned showgirl. I think when you have a theater background, the curtain's up at 8.
Yes.
Half hour is called at 7:30. You better be correct and be ready to hit the stage 8 o'clock. They're not going to hold the curtain for somebody who la-di-da happens to stroll in not prepared. That doesn't happen. So growing up that way and also having parents that instilled that sense of time, but also honorship and being prepared is something that I just grew up with. So,
absolutely.
Being a showgirl means that you put on a show, you give 100%. And also I had, again, when you're doing a Broadway productions, you do have normally a hair and makeup, or you do your own makeup and you've got a hairdresser because of a mic and quick changes and stuff. But, you have to learn how to, if that's your job, you got to learn how to do your face.
Absolutely.
Learn how to do it properly. Get the right training and watch and learn. There's always opportunities to see, wow, I look great. What did he do? What products did you use? Let me try to, practice makes perfect. Let me try to recreate that with myself.
Absolutely.
And also, I cook for my kids.
Yeah.
I garden and weed in my house and stuff.
You enjoy it.
I enjoy it, and sometimes you got to do it yourself.
You just got to do it yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
So some of the movies, it's funny, since I've known you, every time I turn the TV on, it's like a Vanessa Williams movie. I'm like, what is going on? Like when you got in my car today, I said, did you Bluetooth yourself on here? All of a sudden we hear Vanessa Williams. But what are some of your favorite moments? Of course, mine, are the soul food, and there's so many. But what are some of your favorite movies that you've worked on?
I think Dance With Me was one of my favorites, just because I had to learn ballroom dancing.
Okay.
And I was trained as a dancer, but that's a whole nother skill set. So I trained for 2.5 months to learn the routines, but also to learn the technique. And then I got a chance to play a ballroom dancer as a part of an amazing movie about ballroom dancing and playing a teacher. So competing with other professional ballroom dancers and reaching their level kind of freaked a lot of people out, but also it made me feel like, oh my God, I love doing this because I love the challenge. I love doing something new.
Would you ever do Dancing with the Stars?
No, because I did a movie and I know how to ballroom dance. So it's
I did a movie. I take back what I said about you not being a diva. I did a movie.
Yes, exactly.
I love it.
Yeah, but the concept is it's taking people out of their comfort zone and doing something they've never done before. I've already done the movie.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Wilhelmina and Ugly Betty, of course, they made Devil Wears Prada. So how much was that character based on Anna Wintour?
Not a lot.
Not a lot?
Yeah, because the movie had just come out the year before. When they did the Ugly Betty pilot, actually Sylvia Orta, who's the one who created the pilot, first had Betty as a private eye. And she was going to be a spy or something, and they threw it out, and they said, let's put her in the fashion world, and then he wrote the pilot. So, and when they actually cast the show, I was doing something else, and they had cast another actress, and after the first read-through, I got a phone call from my agent saying, they need you tomorrow to start this show. They're ready for the costume fitting. So I kind of jumped into that the following day.
I love it.
And met Pat Fields in the back of a wardrobe truck with her cigarette hanging out. And I happened to be the same size as the person that they had cast before, who unfortunately lost her job. Unfortunately for her, not for me. And then I jumped in a couple days later. So it was a mad scramble. But once you're in a role and writers see what you can do, then they kind of write it for you.
Yeah.
And the more I gave them, the more like, oh my God, she's really good at doing that. Let's give her more. Let's give Wilhelmina more. And that's how kind of writers shape your character.
So you've often said that your guilty pleasure is Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Atlanta, Beverly Hills, yeah, Below Deck.
Oh, you just love all those. I was thinking that when your character came into Desperate Housewives, I mean, you really set it off. How much of that do you think those producers said, yeah, we want to make a show based around Vanessa. We're going to make a reality show based on her character on Desperate Housewives.
I think that was basically, I'd finished, we had done 4 years of Ugly Betty on ABC, and it kind of ended abruptly. That was in 08 after the crisis, and it was a matter of, it was a very expensive show to do, and I think they took like our budget and made like a bunch of different pilots, I don't know, none of which ended up going on and killed our show.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it sometimes.
Exactly.
You know?
So I think ABC wanted to keep me in the family. So that's when they made the transition into Desperate, and I loved walking on Wisteria Lane and turning it up.
Yes.
And it was fun to actually, I mean, even though Alfre Woodard was kind of the first housewife of color in season 2 on Desperate, I got a chance to do two seasons and loved it.
So you like Real Housewives and all those other shows. Mm-hmm. Would you ever do reality following you doing all these different things?
I've been asked a couple times, and it has not been the right fit.
Sure.
And I don't know whether in my life, you have to have a lot of people to agree to be a part of it to make it interesting.
Absolutely.
And I don't know anybody in my life who'd be like, yeah, I want to do it. I don't think. And again, I do so many things by myself. It's not like I've got an entourage with a stylist waiting in my huge, closet waiting to dress me for. I'm pretty normal at this point in my life.
But you look fabulous. Speaking of this huge closet you have,
I'm saying a virtual closet.
Well, now everybody can kind of take part in this closet because you have a new line, the Vanessa Williams line. At HSN.
I do.
That launches right now in July.
Exactly.
Yeah. So tell us about that HSN. That's big.
HSN is wonderful. I have designed for another home shopping network for a couple years, which got my feet wet. They gave me the opportunity, and now I'm hooked and love it, and I have a great manufacturer, so the quality is really remarkable for home shopping. It's not throwaway fashion. You can actually build a wardrobe on the pieces that we're doing, and it's a lot of it is stuff that I wear that I want more of, that I know that works. I've designed for ages that my mother is. She'll be 80, and of course my mother's like, why? But she'll be 80 in December, all the way down to my 19-year-old. So I always ask, would you wear this? What color do you like? How does it feel? What are you missing in your wardrobe? And that's how I kind of compile my tastes, what works for me, and what I know works for other women.
Yeah.
So for instance, suiting and jackets, that's completely my mother's jam.
Yes.
Because she's always going to a ladies' function, a tea. If it's out to the theater, it's, so you need something that's going to be, that take you from afternoon to evening. You could wear to church, but if you didn't want to wear it to church, you could wear it to, a meeting and look spectacular. Pencil skirts, I love a good pencil skirt. I love stuff with stretch. So we do have some cut and sew, which is like regular fabric, but we do have a lot of things that have stretch built in. I've got a fabric called the Comfort Zone knit, which is, it feels like butter. It's drapey. I've got a jumpsuit that I have in it. I've got some slouchy pants and a sleeveless
all named
top.
after your songs.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, yeah. Exactly.
Oh, that's pretty exciting. I saw your mom and Melanie, your daughter, in one of the promos for it. Are they going to go on to HSN with you and help you sell?
My youngest is going on HSN.
Oh, I love it.
Yes. She'll be on the debut show on the 11th, and she's already picked out what speaks to her.
Yes.
And for instance, in the picture, my eldest daughter's wearing the black jumpsuit.
Yes.
My daughter's like, I want to wear red. I said, okay. So she's wearing red with a different shoe, and she's a size 16. So she has got a completely different body shape. So I can show visually what my mother's petite is like 5'1" and shrinking every day. But she's got a cute little body and shows what it can look like with a mature lady all the way down to a 19-year-old. 19-year-old.
Where does the drive come from? Because the you keep evolving. Certainly your art, and I know you have some new music that you're going to be working on. But the drive, it seems pretty relentless. Like, where do you attribute that to?
I think people need to create, whether it's at your job, whether you're doing a radio show, that fuels you to do more, and especially when it's successful, and when people give you opportunity. You have to think, okay, this makes me feel uncomfortable, but it might be worth it.
Yeah.
So again, don't be afraid to take a risk. And my background in terms of fashion, it's not like I'm just a celebrity throwing my name on something. I mean, back in the day, my mother used to make all my clothes. I grew up with a Singer sewing machine in her bedroom. I started sewing my own clothes. We used to have home ec back in the day. I think they got rid of it. I don't think they even do home ec anymore in the schools, but you had to learn how to cook and sew. So I used to embroider my own things, sew patches on my clothes. So I was always in, of course, costumes and Halloween costumes and draping them and making them, fit my body. So I was always into the creation and loved kind of being different. So this is an opportunity for me to have my own line, but have a signature look that I can continue to create. It's all about creation.
It really is, and you do such a great job at it. Interesting, I was telling someone you were going to be here, and the person said to me, oh yeah, she moved up there near the Clintons. And so when I looked online, I realized you're from that area.
Yes, exactly. No, they moved into my hood.
It was so interesting. This is a person of a certain persuasion. And she said to me, oh, yeah, she moved up there where the Clintons are.
Yeah.
And
well, tell her in 1964, my parents were the first black family to move into Newcastle.
Yes.
And it was not an easy move.
Okay.
So, tell your friend that we were there since 1964.
Wasn't really a friend. It was somebody that was offering an opinion. And I thought it was true. I said, that's interesting. She moved by the Clintons, huh?
Yeah. So
but it's home.
Yeah, it's home. My parents were both music teachers. My dad taught in Elmsford, my mom in Ossining. And they were looking for houses back in the early 60s, and they happened to find a house for sale that was kind of equidistant to where they would work. And they had a great, the owner of the house, or the builder of the house actually lived across the street, so we had a great relationship. Come to find out years later that a couple of kids that I'd gone to school with that were my very good friends, their parents were part of a collective that were trying to not approve our mortgage and not have us move into the neighborhood. And we found this out years and years later. So I've moved there. We moved there in 64. Went to high school, went to college, and then I came back in 92 to raise my family. In the next town over was the Chappaqua. But Chappaqua and Millwood and Mount Kisco all have the same school systems. So 2 of my kids graduated from my high school.
So interesting. So interesting. I'll share a story from my childhood. I grew up in a similar situation. We were the only black family in the neighborhood. And I had a group of friends. They were twins. And they're Jewish. And their mom would not allow me into their house. So when all the friends from the neighborhood, 10 friends or so, we would go from house to house. And when we get to their house, I'd have to wait outside. But I was so embarrassed by that, I wouldn't even tell my parents, because I thought if I told them, I wouldn't have any friends. Do you know what I mean? Because they wouldn't let me play with those kids. So what kind of experience did you have with your kids? Hopefully times had changed, of course, when your kids came around. I hope.
I sigh because times have changed, but experiences are still unique and similar. So even having Jillian, I remember one time getting a phone call because another kid was playing with her on the playground and said that he didn't want to play with her because her skin was dirty. And Jillian had brown skin that was browner than his skin. Of course, you talk to the parents, my kid would never say that due to our history, blah, blah, blah. Well, he did.
Yes.
And we've got witnesses, and I'm getting the phone call, so we're dealing with it now.
Absolutely.
And we're talking, in the 90s. So I wish I could say times have changed, but everyone's going to have their experience being a person of color anywhere. I remember I was pregnant with Devin, so this had to be like 1992. I had my diamonds on, driving a Range Rover, came out of IHOP.
You had a Range Rover in 1992. You bad as hell.
Exactly.
You are Vanessa Williams.
Putting my two girls in the seat. One of them dropped their shoe, and I had the back doors open. I bent down, put her shoe back on, closed the door, and there was a woman standing next to her Honda, and she said, "Were you in my car?" And I was so taken aback. I was like,
"Oh my goodness."
Excuse me? She said, were you just in my car? I said, no, my child's shoe just fell on the ground. And she said, oh. I closed the door. And I was like, but that's because she just saw a black woman bending down next to her car.
Wow.
And that's not, I mean, I have so many more stories to tell. But again, it's going to happen, unfortunately. And that's just being part of our melanin and being in this world.
You're in the nation's capital right now. You've been here before to perform. You're performing at the big, national celebration, Capitol 4th. What is your hope for America moving forward, since this is the center of all of those things, of politics and of this country? What's your hope?
Well, there's a dialogue. That's the fantastic thing is there are so many platforms for people to speak on the truth. And between speaking on the truth and seeing the visual truth, which is very painful many times, of people that are being pulled over, being shot completely, without merit. Not merit. You can't, not merit, but being shot and being accosted for really no reason because they happen to be profiled as black. Those really help make people aware. Yeah. So you can run and hide and be in denial, but times are changing, and I think that we're in even the examples, I told you that when I grew up, we only had Diane Carroll as a half hour. Julia was our sitcom that we watched because we wanted to, cheer her on because she was the black woman. There's so many opportunities to see every range and color and ethnicity and background in media and in our world today. So our kids have a much broader sense of the world, which is great. Absolutely. We've been talking a lot about summer entertaining and travel. Where do you like to go? What makes you happy? Water. Yes. Water makes me happy. Good food makes me happy. Water. You passed up on Montauk when I invited you. I know. I had commitments, unfortunately. Yes. But water just kind of brings your blood pressure down, and just it puts you in that serenity zone, which I absolutely love. And I love travel, and I love when I go places. I love good hotels, but when I leave my good hotel, I love to explore. Native culture, the marketplace, what are they eating, finding the good neighborhood grub. That's the kind of stuff, meeting the people, asking them, who do you think is beautiful? Yes. Well, what's your favorite thing to eat? What do you think I should buy here? What's unusual? In your part of the country, what do you like? And I think that's a worldwide thing. So always keep learning. I love that. Hobbies. You have any hobbies? You collect anything? Do you knit? I don't knit. I do crossword puzzles every day. Yeah. That's my You strike me obsession. As an artist. Do you paint? I don't paint. No. I do flower arranging, which I guess is kind of okay. I love fresh flowers. You play spades? I don't play spades.
Oh, you're not black.
I don't play bid whist.
Okay, you don't play bid whist, but you know about it. Yeah.
Exactly. We play like Uno and Go Fish and War and Spit and all that stuff. Did a lot of jigsaw puzzles and a lot of board games growing up. And I'm very, very competitive. So my kids sometimes don't like to play with me because I get, come on, let's go. They're like, Mom, relax.
It's just a game.
I love games.
Yeah. What are the holidays like at your house?
They're good. And funny you should mention, I always would have, especially when the kids were young, both my exes would be in the same room enjoying. They were friendly to each other. They actually went skiing together one time by themselves with the kids while I was in Miami doing something else.
I love it.
Yeah. So it's always families welcome. I always cook and put on a huge spread. My mom lives next door, so she'll bring over some stuff.
Does she live right next door?
Literally right next door. You walk across my yard and her house is right there.
Oh, that's
After
wonderful.
my dad passed, she sold the house that I grew up in, which was literally the next town over. And the house that was next to me, he passed away, and she ended up tearing it down and built her own house. So she's literally next door to me.
Oh, that is wonderful. That's a reality show. There you go. The show writes itself. You and your mom.
Me and my mom.
You and your mom. Y'all are still very close.
Still very close. And in the book that we wrote, You Have No Idea, we talk about how different our personalities were and are. And I'm definitely a combo of my parents. My dad grew up in Oyster Bay, Long Island, which was basically a lot of farms and beach and very small town, very multicultural. Oyster Bay was kind of the first. There was Quakers, there was Jewish people, there were Polish people, there were Italian, Black. So it was a real kind of diverse community. I don't want to say hippy dippy, but very kind of open and diverse. My mom grew up in Buffalo, segregated, steel country, Bethlehem Steel, much different sensibility. So she is a tough chick who married a nice. I don't want to say country boy, but Long Island, it's gorgeous and. So I've got the feeling and compassion that my dad reached me every night before I went to bed. He was the soft one.
Yes.
My mother was a tough one.
Okay, she was a tough one.
So I can slip into either, which is good.
Yeah, you can go either way.
Yes. Yeah.
That is so interesting to me. So you do the things that you do so well. Is there anything that you
that I suck at?
No. What don't you do well? Come on, Vanessa.
I hate doing taxes. Hate balancing a checkbook.
Okay, you're like, oh, geez.
Exactly. To tedious stuff drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Like if I had to work at a number sheet every day, I'd blow my brains out.
Yeah.
Just because that doesn't give me joy. But my husband, who's an accountant, numbers give him joy. Words give me joy. So I can sit at a crossword puzzle and be entertained. He can do Sudoku and find that same excitement. So words excite me, numbers do not.
Love it. Anything career-wise that you have in your mind that you'd like to do that you haven't already done? I mean, I'm pretty sure you've done everything, but...
Producing, I'd like to do more producing. The first thing I produced was a story about the order of the first Black nuns in New Orleans called the Sisters of the Holy Family. That was established in the early 1800s, mid-1800s. And the original name of the script was called Quadroon Ball, and it was for Lifetime. Ended up picking it up and changed the name, but it was about the aristocracy in New Orleans, which was made up of Italian and French, and the slaves that were there, and they would start to intermix with the aristocrats, and there was a society of quadroon and octoroon that became a hierarchy and almost in a middle class between slave and aristocrat. And they would have these balls called quadroon balls.
Okay.
And basically they would be women of color that would be suited with these married men. And basically they would be the mistress who would get their own place. And they would have children with these French and Spanish men. and the Henriette Delille, who was the woman that I was playing, and everyone was raised Catholic, but even in the church, there were the whites, there were the mixed, and then there were the slaves, and that's how they would worship. And she wanted to create her own order because she wanted to give back to the poor. So she created her own habits. She created her own. She had all her sisterhood together. And the archdiocese says you can't do that. We don't have women of color as part of an order. And she started her own order. And that, being grown up Catholic, but also seeing a representation of a woman who wanted to serve but couldn't because of her skin color and said, I'm going to do it anyway, was fascinating. And there's still an order today. If you go down to New Orleans and you want to go to see the Sisters of the Holy Family, they are still there. They've got St. Mary's is their high school that they still are a part of.
Wow.
And they're still active. So that was one of the stories that I felt I
totally
needed
see
to
it.
do.
I went there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally see it. So
it's called
producing.
Courage to Love. I'm sure it's on. I did it back in 2000 for Lifetime, but I'm sure you can find it on YouTube or something.
So you're
but more of those
stories
stories of history that I had no idea that even happened.
Yeah, absolutely. So upcoming tour dates, VanessaWilliams.com. Everybody can get. What can you get on VanessaWilliams.com?
You can get directed to all my tour dates. I don't have any merch yet to sell.
Yeah, but soon.
But soon.
But soon.
And then hsn.com, you can buy everything online, which most people do. I wrote that great book with my mom, You Have No Idea. So that's still in print and still available if you really want to know more about me. And, my...
Did you do Audible?
Background. Yeah, I did an Audible book as well. Yes.
Get that for sure. Yeah, you definitely want to have Vanessa Williams speaking to you in that way. Yeah. Now, how often will we be able to see you on HSN?
Probably once a quarter, maybe.
Okay.
So, but
they need you more.
I know.
I'm gonna have to holler at somebody down there. HSN, get y'all's money together. We need more Vanessa Williams. I think it's gonna be fun. That's gonna be like must-watch TV.
Good.
I mean, I want people to buy, but
yes.
I just kind of want to watch. I just kind of want to watch. Well, you are bringing so much joy to my life. I would just want to thank you. Take this moment to thank you. My mom and I were having a little, mother-son spat, and you just did the sweetest little videos to her, like, Brenda, call your son. and it really put a lot of things into perspective for her and for myself. Just what advice do you have for parents and their kids that might be going through a little moment? Because you did have a very rational way of thinking about it, and it really did help us. So just what advice do you have for the people?
My biggest advice, since I've raised 4 children and had 3 girls, and this is for anyone who's raising a girl, just know that 7th grade, they go in like angels and come out like lions, and it's because of the hormones. So do not take it personally. That's the easiest thing for a parent. How dare you talk to me like that? What happened to you? I mean, and you internalize everything and take it personally.
Yeah.
They can't help their bodies. They can't help their emotions because they're going through a physical change. So take a breath, take a beat, moms and dads. Just know that if they say they hate you, if they storm out of the room and slam the door, no, that's not acceptable.
Yeah.
It's going to happen more because, again, they can't help themselves. But take a beat and don't take it personally because eventually you'll get them back.
Exactly.
So that's my biggest adolescent.
I love that.
How to deal with girls.
I love that.
Boys, you just don't want them to kill themselves.
You just don't want them to kill themselves.
My son's driving a motorcycle. I mean, he's a risk taker.
I was wondering how do you feel about that. The motorcycle.
He's a great driver.
Yeah.
He's very skilled. He's got all Kevlar down with pads and stuff. So he takes it seriously. So he's not reckless, but he likes to do adventurous stuff, and that's him. And he's an adult, and he bought the bike himself, so I can't say anything, but I just pray that he'll be fine. And life is short. Enjoy each other.
Absolutely. I did a segment on the morning show that I work on about mothers of grown black sons, and they were sharing. Pam Simpson was on, Donnie Simpson's wife, and Marcia Dyson, and a few other people were on, and they were just sharing some of their thoughts about even when their sons get grown, they still have those same fears, because we started this segment because my mom would always ask me to call her when I got home. I'm like, I'm 40. I mean, first of all, I might not be going straight home. there's that. But, you know, we had to have a conversation. I said, okay, what is this? Like, what is this about? And, you know, because you think you're going to grow out of that, but it really, you don't. You don't, just because your kid gets grown.
Right, and it's the mother, it's the control comes out of fear. And, you know, it's fear of protection, which is innate to a mother's love. So again, moms have to take a beat and realize that their child is grown and they've got to cut the apron strings and let them be an adult.
I love it.
Yeah.
What an awesome mom you are. What a great friend you are being to me. I
love
can't
you,
get enough of you, Vanessa Williams. So the Paul Wharton Show would not be possible without our fabulous sponsors. All right, I want to thank my fabulous guest, the one and only Vanessa Williams. It has been such a pleasure having you in studio
Paul,
today.
you are the absolute best. Yeah.
I'm lost in those. I'm lost in those eyes.
I feel I've known you for years, really.
Really, I do too.
Yeah.
Okay, this is gonna. We're gonna keep this thing going.
Yes.
Well, follow Vanessa on Instagram at Vanessa Williams Official. Check out VanessaWilliams.com, and she's on HSN. Buy those clothes, and you can look like Vanessa Williams
There
too.
you go.
Thank you all for tuning in, and make sure you tell all your friends about the Paul Wharton Show right here on SiriusXM channel 141. Bye, guys.
To feel better. Paul is here pulling it all together.
In my phone.
Paul is here pulling it all together.
Let's give y'all food.
So good.
I'm glad we got it done early. Isn't that something?
Perfect. No, that was really...
So, the fabulous Vanessa Williams is on my new show, The Paul Wharton Show on SiriusXM channel 141. Learned so much about you today.
Did you?
I really did.
Good. You asked the right questions.
Well, I appreciate that because I'm interested in you. That's what it is.
But we are kind of from the same ilk.
Yes.
Very motivated, well-educated,
Yes.
have a high level of expectation of us
And that's okay.
and others, and that's okay.
Yeah, because we put it out there.
Exactly.
We're
We
willing
work
to
hard.
give.
Exactly.
We want to get.
Yeah. We want to get.
We want to get. We want to get. So tune in. You got to check out her new line on HSN. She's got a new clothing line on HSN, and all her concert dates are on VanessaWilliams.com. She is just fabulous. And I'm living my best life by having her as my friend.
Wow.
Thanks, guys. Bye.